Welcome, Good Friday afternoon. Show number 26, not show number 23, but show number 26. Gold and Black Live, the final show of the year. What better way to bring it out, finish it out with Lewis Jackson. Coach Danny Hope will be joining us later. Lewis, welcome to the show. You know what you've been with Stacy the last hour doing your exit interview, so you kind of know what you're getting into. But you're a big guy, you can handle this. But welcome to the show, and we're glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me here.
And we're going to have some hard-hitting questions like how good a football player Lewis Jackson would have been. I think Danny may hope when he comes in will probably, he still has that fifth year. Could work that out. We need rumors on Gold and Black Live at goldandblack.com. Be great stuff. Stacy, Lewis has been fun to cover for you. Well, a year with us and 3 years in Fort Wayne,
Yep.
But a great guy to watch. His ups and downs on occasion, but mostly ups during his career.
Mostly ups, would you agree?
Yeah, mostly.
No, I mean, I think that's been great, as Lewis has been one of the most kind of open guys that I've ever covered, and so that's really helped. I think our relationship is that he's willing to talk about everything, and there have been some downs, and he's owned up to some of those and moved on, and it's been really, it always is a cool process for us to see these guys over 4 years really mature, and I think, he's one of the better examples from that. What do you just kind of your ride? I mean, what do you think? 4 years is a long time sometimes.
Yeah, it is. You get caught in the moment being here. You don't realize how quick they really go by. And I guess now, kind of typically saying an old guy, I can sit back and kind of look at my whole career. It's been a joy. Just thinking about the teams I've been on, the rides, just making it to the tournament all 4 years. Some guys can't even say that, and just going through the mistakes I did, it helped me become a better person, and also showed me true friends, and just opened my eyes to a whole different world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no question. And the thing that also is interesting for you is the fact that it is a journey for you, and it has been from injury to persevering through. Robbie Hummel's injuries and team injuries. It's been an experience that you're going to be able to take for the rest of your life. I think that's almost a given.
Oh, definitely. Like you said, just the injuries. I was talking to Stacy about a little earlier, and as a young kid coming into high school, you don't think about the injuries and the possibilities that could really affect your life. But when you go through them yourself and then have teammates, it really just kind of makes you mature and understand how precious the opportunity that we have, because a lot of guys may blow out a knee, may mess up a foot, never can come back and experience it. So I think more so it makes you just appreciate that moment, and you really just try and embrace it for the full ride.
Yeah, no question.
And your injury, maybe the most talked about one, is the foot injury, only because you could have decided not to come back, and you did come back. Just the thought process behind that, and we've talked about it before, but just why do that? Considering you could have, you could be playing next year.
Yeah, my teammates. I think that group of guys, me coming in my freshman year and just being considered part of the baby boilers right before, they start calling us grown men, and actually being able to be, part of that. And we all set in that season with, special dreams. The Final Four was in Indianapolis, and it was right there in our backyard, and we knew we had the pieces and what we needed to do. And it just was like, if I had an opportunity to come back, and especially those two seniors, Keaton and Kramer, it was worth a year. In the group we had of guys, it was worth it. Didn't even need to hesitate and say, I need to be here another year from my selfish standpoint, and I just sacrificed for my teammates.
And that was that what was the first round? Was it Siena?
Yeah.
And that was the game you played, and I guess we can talk about it now because you're graduated. I'm not sure. But in the locker room after the game, you literally ran off the floor with the game ball.
Yeah.
And in the locker room after the game, you had it. And I'm like, is that the game ball? And you're like, I don't think I'm supposed to have it. But do you have it?
Yeah.
Do you now have it?
Yeah, it's at my house.
So you didn't get busted. Now maybe you
Nope.
can. Maybe retroactively
Yeah,
they'll
this
come
is-
back and bust you for it.
See on the internet now.
I know,
Yeah,
it's totally done now.
this-
But
this-
I mean, that game I think was really special for you because of how hurt you were, and still to go out and you were phenomenal that game.
It was probably one of the best games I had, and
Yeah.
I still kind of give Juwan grief about it because I had 9 assists and 1 turnover, and it was him that came through the lane and missed it. But it was just great because I almost had a triple-double, and just being out there with the seniors, and I just remember everybody talking about Siena could beat us, and we were going home early, and we were fighting for those seniors, and we didn't want that game to be their last game, and me to have a special game, especially after foot injury. I just had to take the ball for some type of memory.
I think that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else asked you about it, but I noticed because I knew in my mind, I'm like, oh, he had the ball at the end of the game. That's that's the lead to my story. And then I'm like, wait, going.
He's got the
carrying-
ball.
he's
I
taking the
tried to give it to the refs, and in the NCAA tournament, they hurry up and sprint out. So once
Yeah.
they sprinted out, I kind of looked around, and I remember looking at Elliot Bloom, and he kind of looked at me, and I just was like, I'm bringing it in the locker room with me. He let me go with it.
All right, that's a happy ending, and then some. Strong personalities. Obviously, you are one. You come into the team as a freshman with a Chris Kramer already there. Rob, Jawan, each one are maybe different types of guys, maybe not as strong, at least outwardly going. But how long did it take you to mesh into dealing with a guy like Kramer? You're both playing in the backcourt. I could see that you have probably have a lot of instant respect for one another, but you're strong personalities. How long did that take for you?
It took me and Chris about 2 weeks. It
Yeah.
was kind of like, the first week was kind of like, you're a freshman. You got to prove something to me. And in our open gyms, we kind of got in a little scruffle, and I stood tall. And I think right then and there, he kind of more so respected me because he knew he just couldn't punk me. You want to see how tough your freshmen are. That's just the thing.
Yeah.
If you're gonna really be out here. And those guys already understood me coming in, I was going to be a key component, so they had to make sure I was ready. And I think once he realized I was going to be aggressive and not back down from him, it just made him really respect me, and we were able just to compete night in and night out, even in practice, and make us better.
Who are some of the stronger personalities that the rest of us may not see from the day in, day out, guys that you'd want to have? I mean, we all talk about Rob Hummel and on down the line, but maybe somebody that we might not talk about that you'd want to have in the foxhole with you, with guys that you play with that we may not recognize.
I definitely want to Keaton Grant. I don't think people really understood. He was coming off a knee surgery, and I remember my first open gym, I do a couple moves, and everybody's like, "Man, this little kid's good." And he was like, "You're not gonna do that in the Big Ten." And he never gave me my credit. And he made you want to prove it, and he fought every day. He fought you every day. So a guy like him, you want in the foxhole. I think for the young guys, it's a Tyrone Johnson. Yeah. And he finally kind of broke out in the shell this year. We finally got into it in practice, and we competed, and we were fighting, we were pushing. But I think it showed the young guys he can step up. Because as a senior, if you can respect a young guy stepping up and competing, it gives him more, I think, leeway next year to really be that leader and, be able to step up because, if my senior captains respect me like this, I'm that guy. So I think right now Tyrone Johnson and DJ Bird are ready to step up in that leadership role and be in that foxhole.
Yep.
We have a question.
Yeah, fire away,
Ooh, I got a
Stacey.
question.
Why didn't we see an inbounds alley-oop play for you?
I don't know. We actually had one, which is weird. It's a reverse. We have one for the 4-man, but we have one for me too. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. We used to kind of play around with it in the practice, but I guess for some reason the game coach didn't want to go to it.
But at least you got the dunk.
Oh, I would cry on TV if I would have came here at the end of the year and didn't have a dunk. I was gonna cry. All the fans, everybody kept saying we seen it on YouTube, and it was a goal of mine to make sure I got one down.
And Rob Hummel was on the show last week. And of course, after he's done, and I said, okay, give me something for Lou. And he said, you got to say that I'm the better dunker. And we had this discussion on the Senior Journey video that I did all season with those guys. You were debating on there too, but you get the last word.
Rob Hummel, it's a great guy. Great, he's a better shooter than me. But as far as dunking, he's not. He's not better than me. I don't know what 6'8" guy counts a dunk that never actually, made it in.
There we go. We're back at it again.
He still counts that dunk, and he's 6'8". So I think that lets you know who's the better dunker between us if he has to count one.
Well, and he blames injuries, but you can do the same thing.
Yeah, I can blame height. I can blame genetics. The guy, he's fine. He showed us a lot out those knee injuries. He can still dunk.
Yeah, I think that's well played, as they say. Very well played. You look ahead or look back at what happened this year. Nobody could walk in your shoes as a basketball team in January. I mean, there was not only I think what you were dealing with an injury standpoint, Rob not shooting well, dealing with the fact that neither of you were practicing all the time. Did you have doubts in January this is going to get to where it got to at the end of the season, or what tipped it back and the scales back in the way that you played really in February and March?
I think you have a little doubt. Obviously, we still, as a group in the unit, we knew every day coming in that we could beat anybody in the Big Ten. And we were trying to figure out how could we get healthy and get this team rolling, because every time we had a couple weeks of practice and everybody's together, the team looked good. And once we had injuries, we kind of would get out of sync. And our main goal and coach's main goal is to get everybody healthy and on the same page. And once we kind of did that and we seen, played the Michigan States, and I think when we went to O State and we only lost by, I think, what, 4 or 5, whatever that was, and it kind of woke up everybody saying, like, hey, we can do this. It's not too late in the year. And I think that's when the ball got rolling and everybody started to get healthy at the right time.
Yeah.
Only because we brought it up with Rob, the Kansas game to end that way, and we just talked about it, but it'll stay with you for a while?
For the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's cliche, but, you know, Coach Painter called me in and we talked about it after the game. Even, I guarantee you, Rob still thinks about it, even though he had a good game, what else he could have did. And as a competitor, you're always going to wonder if I could have did this right, if that ball would have dropped just one time for me. You know, maybe things would be a different outlook, but honestly, it's only, what, 2 teams, the NIT winners and the national champions, that go home thinking positive thoughts. Every other senior and every kid right now is thinking, what if? So it'll always sting, but the ride we had and what we did, I think, will overlap it in time.
Yeah. The initial dealing with that, and yet looking back at what you guys did from that Ohio State game on February 7th on, high point the Michigan game, or was there did you really play better after that point? Were there even times, even though maybe the box score didn't say so, do you think that you continued to get better throughout the rest of the season?
Oh, definitely, I do. And I think it all started when we actually beat Northwestern here, and we went on a roll. And when Illinois was in a do-or-die situation, we went out there and we really controlled the game for the most part, and then we closed out. So I think that got the ball rolling, like you said, the O State kind of losing, but having that confidence, and then really seeing us compete the way we did gave us the most confidence, because once we started competing like that, it wasn't a game that we didn't feel like we could win, and we knew we went in there and we always had a saying, just do your job. As long as you do your job, it can be done, and I think that's what we showed at the end of the year.
Satisfaction beating Illinois, though, that's a fun thing for you?
It's one of the best things that can happen to me, and just, you know, overall having a better winning percentage than they did, and my career kind of going better than theirs during that 4 stretches, it makes it even that much sweeter for me.
I think that's a natural, that's an actual and real response.
You didn't come in and not being an Indiana guy. You know, obviously we established that. How quickly did you learn to hate Indiana
Oh my God.
University? I guess
The
I should
basketball
be specific.
Yeah. May he rest in peace. Roger Blaylock. The first day I got on campus, I had on just like a red and black Cincinnati hat, and I'll never forget this story. And he walks up to me, young man, I'm happy that you're on this team. Heard great things about you, but we don't wear red around here. And I called my mom. I said, I think I probably need to put all my red stuff away. It's not going to work here. So I learned pretty soon that, you know, we don't like Indiana around here.
And that rivalry got a little chippy in terms of, I mean, there are guys that obviously you've played with Cody's brother Tyler, and you've known Cody and in AAU and all of that. But can you, and I guess that's always a question I have, with all the AAU and all the fact that you guys mix and play against each other, and then you end up dispersing to other universities, can you really develop a strong dislike for somebody you might have liked before, or do you just put it into that 40 minutes on the basketball court?
It's tough. It's tough because, like you said, you know, I was close friends with Tyler, so I knew Cody before he was Cody Zeller now, and Matt Rolfe was on my AAU team, and you kind of look at guys like, you know, we used to be good friends, but then you just kind of, as a competitor, that 40 minutes, we're not friends. You're not on my team no more. I don't like you. But right after it's over with, you know, you're back friends. But in this rivalry, it gets weird because if IU's doing good, you don't kind of want to reach out and say, you know, I'm happy for my friend at IU because it's still a rivalry and we don't like what they do. So it's tough, but you kind of just understand it and you respect the rivalry and just embrace it.
Yeah. And my guess is that rivalry is going to continue to heat up, and it actually is good for, I think, for the state of Indiana, the fact that it is extremely competitive and will continue to, I think, to be that way. All right, now that we have the football coach in here, and we're going to start. We're not in the rumor business, but see, we talked a little bit about football, and I know that the coach would be could use. He's got a very good defensive backfield, but that 5th year of eligibility, you can declare right now that you'd like to play.
Me and Coach got to talk under the table, work out a couple things. We maybe can go that route.
Talk about your I know you only played, you said up to 7th grade, but you said that there was a couple guys on Coach Hope's team that you can run with. You said.
Yeah. I have utmost respect for those guys first and foremost, and I'm proud of what they accomplished last year. Big things, but You know, it's competitive because we eat together. So, you know, some guys are basketball players, some guys are football players. So during dinner, you're getting those talks. And me and Ralph Bolden, we're actually in the same class. So we've been knowing each other since freshmen, good friends. And we used to always have an argument who's faster because he's from Georgia. So everybody down south is just way faster than the Midwest guys. So we've had this argument. He got hurt, I got hurt. Finally, right before the season kicked off in the summer, we had a race. And I actually beat him. He may complain and say I didn't beat him, but we were in Mollenkoff. It was a big crowd out there, his teammates, my teammates, the strength coaches, everybody seen it. So once I beat him, then Rob Henry, Gary Harris, a couple of those other guys attacked me like, you know, now you need to race against us because you beat one of our boys. But it's just all competitive and it's a good nature.
Yeah, and Rob Henry.
How far was it, 40?
Yeah, quick 40. And, you know, he caught me when I wasn't loose. Nobody likes to talk about that. We were just getting ready for warm-ups. He was already hot and warm. But, you know, it was part of it.
Rob Henry give you a run for your money, though.
Definitely. And, you know, I honestly didn't realize how great of an athlete Rob Henry was until this summer. We kind of worked out a little bit on our own. And he would come in, and he's a great athlete in basketball, too. He can jump out the gym, and it kind of gave me a little bit more respect for him.
Yeah, and he's working his way through injuries, and it's going to be fun to watch him next year on the field.
Just looking forward for you, I mean, what's next? You did hire an agent?
Yeah, I signed with Dan Tobin. He actually used to be with Wasserman firm, but he kind of branched out on his own. Keith Grant is actually with him. He had Jason Williams that used to play for Sacramento. Has a couple other guys, and just decided to go that route, and looking forward to what's getting ready next. I'll probably play overseas and, you know, see how much money I can make, and then maybe coach and try to take Coach Payne's job or something.
Talk about your relationship and coach-player relationship is obviously something in all this time here. You develop that. It grows as time goes on. And I thought your speech at the banquet, along with Ryan Smith's, were 1A and 1B, and just outstanding insight. And the fact that the coaches were absolutely breaking up behind you guys, I don't know how you kept your concentration because all four of them couldn't stop laughing. Is that reality with those guys? I mean, in terms of you do have fun, and yet I know that you strap it up and play hard for those guys as well.
Definitely. I don't think people really realize it because you only see coaches during their profession. You don't see them when they're calling and, you know, making sure your family's okay, making sure you're doing fine, and just trying to help you mold into being a man. And I think I told Stacey earlier, everybody sees just the angry Coach Payne, but you don't see, you know, that father figure that's trying to make sure you do the right things and trying to help you prepare for your life stages once you get done with sports. And I think that's probably maybe why it's so much more funny, because now we get to mock these guys, just kind of tell jokes to what we thought was funny that, you know, as a junior and sophomore, you kind of can't say yet, but once it's all said and done, you know, you develop a friendship and a respect just because it's all competitive nature, so it's more fun when it's all said and done. You can tell your stories.
I don't know how Jack Owens is ever going to recover, man. You guys just were ruthless on him. And I know he's a quality guy, and you guys admitted he's a quality guy, but you just were, it was almost getting to be too much.
It was great because he's just the toughest coach, and he always has the story. So when you can finally get a coach like that, and he has to sit there and take it, it's the best.
Yeah, I could watch the other guys were all laughing uncontrollably, and he was trying to hold it together. I mean, and as I think he probably does all the time, but you got him.
We had told him because, you know, at the beginning of your banquet, you always get assigned, one coach always is assigned to you. So he got us when we were young, and he always tells jokes in the locker room, and we can tell jokes back, but nobody heard our side. So we always used to be like, you know, it's almost that time. Yeah. And then once the banquet started, he kind of looked at all of us, and we said, spotlight's on you tonight.
Yeah, there you go. And you paid him back.
Yeah.
Paid him back. Time for a couple more questions. Stacey, go ahead.
We have another one on here. Any career highlight that stands out to you?
Probably more so the double-double. I just think as a point guard, you kind of always want to see where you're measured in assists. Unfortunately, we didn't win that night, but to get a double-double and just really show I can run the team and control the team was probably, you know, the most satisfying thing to me.
How about the last thing I'll ask is Purdue may have a starting point as a true freshman come in, Ronnie Johnson, next year. You know, it depends if he wins the starting job, but what advice do you give a guy like that that's coming in with a spotlight? You came in and played a lot as a true freshman, obviously, and what does it take to do that in this league?
It's hard work and competitiveness, and I think it's going to be interesting because obviously his big brother's here.
Yeah.
But if he goes out every day and he fights his big brother, and, you know, you make those older guys respect you and you compete, that's where you're going to get better. And once you get in those games, it's just second nature. Just go out there and play your game and don't try and do too much and worry about what people are saying because you're going to make mistakes. But if you can make mistakes and continue to grow, that's what's going to make you a better point guard.
All right, well, we're going to look forward to Skyping with Lewis Jackson when he's playing in some European town. I think he'll have one of those berets on. I can see that. It'll be perfect.
I would pay to see that.
I would pay to see that too. But we wish you well, and we'll say that we certainly, I know our group enjoyed covering you. We certainly enjoyed watching you play, and an inspirational guy to say the least, but also a talented guy. And we very much enjoyed that certainly during the last 4 years. It's hard to believe it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. One last thing I thought you said very well in the banquet is that this goes fast. You don't think that as your freshman, but by the time you're a senior, it comes and goes fast. But that graduation's happening here?
Yeah, my mom's excited. I kind of joked with her a couple times. I said, I'm not walking. She said,
oh, yeah.
If you want to see the rest of your life, you're going
to I think that's a fair statement. All right, we're going to take a couple-minute break. Bring on the football coach, Coach Danny Hope, and we'll look forward to being back here in a couple of minutes on Gold and Black Live.
Just one night. One team victorious. The story behind the score. The rivalries. The big plays. From the sidelines to you. On the air, online. Are you ready for the frenzy? Friday Night Frenzy. High school football from where you live.
Check out the Purdue collection now at Follett's. Boiler up with Nike Fantastic T-shirts, League and Champion fashion colors. Simply fabulous, simply Follett's. Purdue pride everywhere on game day. Nike sideline, worn by the team, by the players, and by you. And make every day game day with tailgate toss. Follett's, Purdue pride, a Purdue tradition, 17 game day locations.
West Point Steakhouse is a family-owned restaurant known for premium quality steaks. Open for dinner Thursday through Saturday. Stop by for the Thursday night prime rib special or Friday and Saturday night specials like pasta and seafood. Be sure to come and enjoy all the food and fun at West Point Steakhouse.
You can now get a quote or buy car insurance 24 hours a day. Call me, State Farm Agent Trent Johnson, at 743-9595 and see how much money you can save today.
Going to the Purdue game? Stay at Hilton Garden Inn, West Lafayette at the Wabash Landing. Your family will love the well-appointed guest rooms, the pool, whirlpool, fitness center, the breakfast buffet, and the amazing Hilton Garden Inn staff. Located just 4 blocks from Purdue University, Hilton Garden Inn has long been the choice for Purdue fans. Call today for a reservation and make Hilton Garden Inn your #1 choice.
When you see it happen, report it. Send us your news stories, photos, and videos with our Report It feature. It's easy with WLFI.com and the WLFI smartphone app. With a few simple clicks, you can send videos and photos of breaking news coverage. See your submissions on air as part of our broadcast or online in the Report It gallery. WLFI.com. Always mobile, always connected.
Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. We were born ready. And we are ready here. We got this guy's the master of preparation. Anyway, the Coach Danny Hope. Welcome again to the show, and Kyle Charters chiming in as well. Coach, spring ball is done. I know you're not a golfer, and I know you don't take much vacation. What are you working on this week? Is it recruiting, or is it just going back and looking what happened at spring ball, or all of that, or all the above?
All of the above. Doing exactly what you just said, going back and looking through all the notes of spring ball, taking all the team meetings out, looking at all the handouts that the coaches had, putting the notebook all together and kind of wrapping up spring ball. The players are meeting with their position coaches this week for their end of the year or post-spring ball exit interview. They'll talk to their position coaches about what they need to work on over the course of the summer, what their plans are for the summer. We ask them questions like, what do you see in the big picture for yourself in the 2012 season, the team. So they're doing their exit interviews with their position coaches this week. Our coaches hit the road recruiting this coming Monday. I've been wrapping up recruiting and spent a lot of time evaluating prospects that our coaches are fixing to go on the road and see. So very, very busy time of the year.
Yeah, no question.
So what is the biggest, I don't know, concern, I don't know if that's the right word, biggest issue? What's the biggest thing you have here over the next 4 months or whatever with your football team until we get ready for the season?
For the team or the program or the team itself?
What do you need to see from the team that maybe you didn't see in the spring?
Well, we did a lot of great things in the spring. We got to stay the course. We ended the season with some great momentum as a football team, and we carried that right into the off-season workouts with Coach Carlisle. I think he's doing a fantastic job downstairs in the weight room, and that carried right into our what we refer to as our concourse workouts. We have a couple weeks of football agility drills, workouts that we put the players through. I think we've maybe had 9 or 10 of those, and the momentum carried from the season to the weight room to the concourse workouts and right on into what we refer to as mini camp. The first 2 days of spring football when we were only in shorts, and we had all new coaches on defense for the most part. We did a lot of the install and introduction, and then had a great spring practice. So we want to continue that momentum right into the off season. We need to finish strong academically. Obviously this time of year, there's always some guys that they're earmarked that you have concerns about, but we don't have anybody on our football team that can't make it and be eligible next year. We could bat 1,000. We're certainly hoping so. That would really make a big difference to our football team. But carry the momentum into the off season. And obviously, we voted for captains at the end of spring football, and it'd be really very important for our football team that leaders emerge and step up throughout the course of the preseason training.
How much is that leadership? You talk about that in the fact that they're going to take, they got to take finals here. It's dead week next week and finals week the next week. Come back and go back to Maymester. Some take that, but some are gone till summer school starts. But what role does leadership play among your guys? I mean, in terms of making sure guys are working out, obviously, but what do you expect of your guys in that time when you're not around them all the time? Well,
just what you said. Some of the workouts are voluntary, and later on in the summer we have I think an 8-week block where the workouts are mandatory. But the leaders rally up the troops and make sure guys are coming in and putting time in. I think the way we've gone about it used to be we used to vote for captains after camp. Or maybe during camp.
Yeah, during fall camp.
Right,
yeah,
and really when I came back a year in transition with Coach Tiller, he was changing the time of year when he voted for captains, and it made so much sense to me that you bring in maybe 30 freshmen on board in the fall and they're voting for captains. They don't really know who the leaders are or not, on the football team. So, do it after spring ball and let those guys maybe assert themselves as leaders and pick up the momentum in the off season from a training standpoint, and just anything that references accountability, if you will, keep everybody accountable throughout the course of the all season. But I think that's one thing in modern football that's maybe harder to develop. We get them bigger, we get them stronger, we get them faster. But I think the leadership part is really important, and it's really hard sometimes to get enough people to step up as leaders, particularly when it's not easy. So it's a very important part of our program.
Yeah, one guy I was going to say, and I'll let Kyle ask a question, but Kawan Short is a guy that I think is interesting. Not, at least on the surface, is not a real gregarious guy. He's a hard-hitting football player, but he's shown some signs that he can lead by example and step up, and obviously he's going to do that by playing well on the football field.
Well, we ask all of our players to try to lead by example, and I think if everybody on the football team does that, then it certainly generates a lot of energy and one heck of a commitment. So we expect everyone on the football to lead by example, and everyone on the team can. Kawan was voted for as a captain last year, and I thought he really started to assert himself as a leader, particularly in the second half of the season. You know, he's a big, soft-spoken guy, you know, really relaxed and easy to be around. But he has a great heart, and what we're doing really means a lot to Kiwanis. He's really, you know, bought into, you know, everything that we're all about. And I thought he did a great job asserting himself as a leader last year. I thought he matured a lot last season. I was really glad that his teammates voted for him again and chose him as the captain for this upcoming season. And I think he can, you know, grab him by the bootstraps and lead them. I think he can do it. I've seen him do it in the past, and I'm glad he was selected a captain.
Yeah.
During the spring, you talked a lot about how you feel like you have 3 quarterbacks who you can win with. How is it that you're going to decide which one gets the call on day one, and when do you think that decision might come down?
Well, you know, it's an ongoing process. You know, we went into spring ball with Caleb, came out of the season with Turbush as number 1, and we went into spring ball with Turbush as number 1, and we came out of spring football with Turbush as number 1, and we'll go into camp with him as number 1. And then, you know, obviously, you know, injuries has played its role in the quarterback development. Robert Marve really made a lot of great progress in spring. He was healthy, he was confident. It's the best I've seen him play since he's been here at Purdue. So obviously we're really excited about having both of those guys ready to go. They've both proven that they can play and compete, and we can win with them. So we're in a good situation, and then we're going to get Rob Henry back. And he really improved through spring in some ways as a passer. He didn't have his leg strength back. We held him out of drills, the majority of the drills throughout the course of spring practice, and he threw a lot on his own, was able to get it videotaped, and I think he really improved his passing skills some. He's going to be healthy. He's a great athlete. We expect him taking snaps behind the center or potentially any other skill position on our offensive football team. So I think it's going to be pretty easy to utilize all 3 of those quarterbacks, put them in position to help us win, and I think it will unfold, the depth chart will, but we went into spring with Turbush as number 1, and we're coming out of spring with Turbush as number 1, and we'll go into camp with Turbush as number 1, and we have a souped-up Robert Marve ready to go, and Rob Henry, who's outstanding, who will regain all of his health back and make an impact on our season as well. So we're in good shape.
Yeah.
At the quarterback spot. You know,
He's okay.
Hallelujah.
But
hallelujah.
But you don't get tired of us asking every practice workout. When is that Marv guy? When are you going to put? I mean, it is a function of. I mean, it's obviously Purdue and any place quarterbacking is extremely important. Right. But Turbush has been your guy, and he's been your guy for 13 games last year, and has every chance to do that again this year.
I think what helps a lot, you know, particularly with the players, is they know that we're committed to playing more than one quarterback. And some people think that that's a ploy in some ways, but it's really the best way to have a number 2 guy ready to play. And you don't want to be in position competing for a championship or a winning season or postseason play or the biggest game of your life, and the number 1 quarterback goes down, and the number 2 quarterback runs out there on the field in front of 100-something thousand people, and he's never taken a snap before. So that's a big part of the method behind our madness in playing more than one quarterback. And then obviously when you have a talent like Rob Henry, it really opens up all kinds of options from an offensive standpoint. So it's really pretty simple to me.
I know that as soon as I ask this question, you're going to talk about the offensive line forever.
No
because
way.
That's sort of your passion. But are you going to be okay at offensive line? I think, you know, last season you were okay with how they played, and then after the year you were like, you know, we needed to be a little bit better to help out our quarterbacks, and you've had some injuries there and things. But can you be better if you get those guys back?
I think we'll be better. I think we are better in some ways. I thought we'd have a better offensive line last year. Before we lost Kenny Blue and Peters Dry. Anytime you lose 2 starters on your offensive line right before the season starts, and then there's some drop-off. And I think Mondek did a good job when we slid him inside, and by the end of the season, Trevor Ford was an awfully good offensive tackle. He hadn't played a whole lot. He was coming off of shoulder surgery. I anticipate Justin Kitchens maybe going through some of the same type of growth and development next season. But again, we lost 2 starters before the season ever started on the O-line last year, or whenever we lost Peters Dry early in the season. We go into spring ball with 2 starters out, Peters Dry and Justin Kitchens. But it is probably a real blessing in disguise because it expedited the growth and development of Kugler, and Josh and Cody Davis, Jack DeBoof, guys that have to either be able to step up into the lineup and play and help us win, or provide adequate depth for us next season. So I think from a development standpoint, I was very pleased with the development of our offensive line. I think as a group, they're very good technicians. I think we have some options. We can move some guys around with Panfile and Kugler and some of the guys that we have on our O-line. When we get Kitchens back and we get Peters Dry back, then we'll have 2 potential starters back. Whether Kitchens is a starter early in the season, a lot will depend on health. But I think we can have a good offensive line, and we have to do better at protecting the quarterback because we're really strong at the quarterback position right now and have guys in position to really impact our season at the quarterback spot.
We get busy to talk and we don't ask any questions because we have lots of them coming in. Receivers, obviously a topic because you got to have guys who can catch the ball. Gary Bush made some big strides late last year, played very well, obviously, in the Little Caesars Pizza Bowl. But talk about his progress, but also the progress of your receivers and who you need to step up in that situation as much as possible.
Well, we need all of our fast guys to step up. That's for sure, because we have a chance to be very fast on the perimeter. We have worked hard in recruiting the last couple of years to recruit speed. We could take the field offensively and have 3 or 4, 10-5, 100-meter type guys on the field at one time, and we need to get the ball in those guys' hands. So Gary Bush is important to us. I think he developed a lot last season. I think he was a much better player at the end of the season than he was at the beginning of the season, and I think he really picked it up this spring. We spent a lot of time in spring ball. We practice longer and harder than what we have to try to become a more physically tough football team. And we spend a lot more time with our receivers going against our defensive backs, not just in one-on-one competition to get open and catch a pass or defend it, but lining up and getting after each other, nose to nose, blocking, getting off blocks. And we did it a lot this spring, and I think that really picked up the physicality on the perimeter. And that's what Gary Bush needs, and that's what O.J. Ross needs, and Antavian Edison needs right now to develop as a next step as a football player. So, all those guys have to step up next season, but we could have O.J. Ross out on the perimeter for us next year. We could have Antavian Edison out on the perimeter for us next year. Tommy Thomas, who has really developed. He's a good leader and 20-something years old now. Gabe Holmes, a very athletic, very fast tight end. Raheem Mostert, Akeem Hunt, Gary Bush. A lot of guys that can really run fast. So those guys have to continue developing their physicality so that they can be difference maker at the Big Ten level, and also we have to keep them eligible and keep them healthy and make sure that they're ready to play. We've got some fast guys we can put on the field.
Just defensively, which we haven't talked a whole lot about yet, just you have a almost whole new staff back there. What did you see from them and how they came together as a group, and perhaps how your team reacted to seeing some new things schematically?
It went very well. The timing of it was a challenge because we wanted to get the right people. We interviewed a lot of people, and we did our due diligence and our homework, and I think we hit a home run on all 3 hires. But we hired them late. They just had a little bit of time to get to know the players, and next thing you know, we were in spring football. So man, they hit it running, and they did a fantastic job. Really excited about our new defensive coordinator, Tim Tibesar. I think he's brilliant. I think he is excellent in regards to the science of football. Outstanding character guy. Communicates extremely well. He's an excellent teacher. I've been to every one of our defensive install meetings, and I think he's outstanding. And the players, even though every day new things were installed, I think our players did a great job of grasping the instruction and the information and being able to get a handle on it. We didn't have that many mistakes throughout the course of the spring practices on the defensive side of the ball compared to all the new stuff that was going in. So really pleased with just the overall everything we got done defensively, the install of the defense, the way the kids responded to the coaches. Coach Burns, our secondary coach, has a fantastic resume. He has coached with John Gruden with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He has 2 national championship rings when they won a national championship at Southern Cal with Pete Carroll. He's worked with some of the best programs in the country, and I think the players really are really excited about him and really bought into his style and his expertise. And then when we hired Coach Wolthausen as our new defensive line coach, I thought that was one of the most important hires because we have 3 or 4 defensive linemen that, in my mind, were at a point in time in their careers and their development where they could take a big step and really be maybe impact players on our football team. So I couldn't hire just anybody as a defensive line coach. You had to be somebody that could really come in and that I believed could really come in and take Kawan Short from a 3rd-round pick to a 1st-round pick, or Bruce Gaston for being one of the better defensive tackles in the league to maybe one of the best the best defensive tackle in the league. So I think we hired the right people in all three spots. I think the players have really responded to it. They're excited. There's been a lot of energy. They believe in them. So gaining a lot of momentum on the defensive side of the ball. And there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. So some good signs over there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but Tibesar actually offered me a spot in the linebacker core midway through the spring. I think I would have lasted about 30 seconds on your team before you booted me off after you realized I couldn't play. But all joking aside, you need some help there at linebacker, right, to build some depth?
Well, in my mind, the linebacker position is the same as the offensive line right now. Yeah. Almost the same. The offensive linemen that weren't out there in the spring, the two guys, they were starters some last year. You know, they were, Beckford, our starting middle linebacker last year, wasn't available for the spring, so that's one starting linebacker that we didn't have out there in the spring. But we really needed to have Nnamdi out there getting all his reps throughout the course of the spring, and also Mike Lee. So we fell 3 linebackers short, 3 of probably our top 6 linebacker candidates, if you will, were not able to go through spring practice. So we were a little bit thin at the linebacker spot. But again, it allowed Antoine Higgs to get a ton of reps with the 1s and 2s, and he made some great progress. And it allowed Sean Robinson to get a ton of reps, brand new to the linebacker position, but a ton of reps with the 1s and the 2s, and he can help us win at that spot next year. It allowed Will Lucas to get a lot of the focus of the instruction and the reps, and he really picked his game up and made some big steps. And Joe Gilliam got a lot of reps with the 1s, and so it allowed some other guys to develop and take some steps. So it wasn't all a loss, but we'd like to have all those guys out there. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to let the coach come up for air, and then we're going to replace Kyle with Stacy for segment 3, and we'll talk, I'm sure, a number of other topics, get to some of your questions as well. Hang loose and make it through the next 2 minutes of commercials, and we'll see you shortly on Golden Black Live.
Just one night. One team victorious. The story behind the score. The rivalries. The big plays. From the sidelines to you. On the air, online. Are you ready for the frenzy? Friday Night Frenzy. High school football from where you live.
Check out the Purdue collection now at Follett's. Boiler up with Nike Fantastic T-shirts. League and champion fashion colors. Simply fabulous. Simply Follett's. Purdue pride everywhere on game day. Nike sideline worn by the team, by the players, and by you. And make every day game day with tailgate toss. Follett's Purdue pride. A Purdue tradition. 17 game day locations.
West Point Steakhouse is a family-owned restaurant known for premium quality steaks. Open for dinner Thursday through Saturday. Stop by for the Thursday night prime rib special or Friday and Saturday night specials like pasta and seafood. Be sure to come and enjoy all the food and fun at West Point Steakhouse.
You can now get a quote or buy car insurance 24 hours a day. Call me, State Farm Agent Trent Johnson, at 743-9595 and see how much money you can save today.
Going to the Purdue game? Stay at Hilton Garden Inn, West Lafayette at the Wabash Landing. Your family will love the well-appointed guest rooms, the pool, whirlpool, fitness center, the breakfast buffet, and the amazing Hilton Garden Inn staff. Located just 4 blocks from Purdue University, Hilton Garden Inn has long been the choice for Purdue fans. Call today for a reservation and make Hilton Garden Inn your #1 choice.
When you see it happen, report it. Send us your news stories, photos, and videos with our Report It feature. It's easy with WLFI.com and the WLFI smartphone app. With a few simple clicks, you can send videos and photos of breaking news coverage. See your submissions on air as part of our broadcast or online in the Report It gallery. WLFI.com. Always mobile, always connected.
Zero. That red light's on. That means we're going. All right, now we've had so much content today that I haven't even said hello to our sponsors. We do want to do that. Follett's Purdue Pride. Jeff Julich hosted the signing last week, and we had a great crowd in that for Rob Hummel. A lot of fun with that. And of course, State Farm agent Trent Johnson. Hilton Garden Inn, when tomorrow's a big day, stay at HGI tonight. And of course, West Point Steakhouse, our 4 sponsors for this year. Very, very thankful for you and all your support of our program throughout the course of the year. All right, Coach, we did tell a fish story, a real fish story at break, but you got to tell us about the fish you caught. If you want to do, you got to get your picture out. There you go. This is a visual thing,
can't move.
and this is impressive because I know this is. You're a guy that has limited hobbies, but this is one of the ones.
This is one of them. Called him a couple weeks
I wish
ago.
we could zoom in. We can't.
Yeah,
I should
but
run
this
up
is
there and hold
a
it up.
20-pound.
No, I wish it was 20 pounds. About 22-inch
22
largemouth bass.
I was like,
pounds.
geez, that's an even
only
bigger
my
fish
cat
story.
that's in it. 22 inches.
It's a 20-pounder.
It shows you I fish
It's a trophy
lot.
fish, though.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's going to be in the Hope household before long.
Getting stuffed right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And no name for him except for you said Big Joe.
Joe.
And you said you've had a 20-year relationship with
I'm
that.
trying to catch him in that same spot for over 2 decades.
So that has to
Finally got him.
be, as they say, a harbinger of it's good things are going to happen this year now.
Absolutely, that's a good sign. It's
Yeah.
a good sign right there.
There you go.
We'll talk about that after the next bowl game.
Yeah,
It was because he caught the fish.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what it was. But seriously, though, going forward, you're building off of the bowl game and the recruiting class. But why then? What you did this spring? Why did that continue to maybe help you build kind of momentum going into the offseason and into the fall?
Well, we went into spring ball with some specific goals.
Right.
And one of them was to become a more disciplined football team. We looked back at our play last season and realized we had to be a more disciplined football team. That starts with the head coach. A lot of the things that we did planning our spring practices was to go out there and challenge us some from a discipline standpoint. We had officials at almost every one of our practices and scrimmages, which I thought made a big difference. The list, the list that we keep of guys that are not being accountable, it has really reduced. We really emphasized that part of it. Just a lot of little things, tackling technique when you're trying to tackle someone out of bounds and using the sideline as your ally, if you will, staying up high and ushering them out of bounds, so you don't maybe put an official in a tough situation to make a call whether or not you was too forceful, a little bit out of bounds or not.
But you had a few of those last year.
Absolutely. So we identified all of our penalties throughout the course of the 2011 season, looked at the ones that really stuck out the most. We had a lot of pre-snap penalties on offense, so went out there in the course of the spring and changed the snap count up a bunch. We had some offsides by the defense, some that went across the line of scrimmage, so changing the snap count up a lot throughout the course of the spring. Early, it was a challenge and it tested our patience, but the guys really did a lot better job with that. So really went with a plan to go into spring practice and do some things to help us become a more disciplined football team. And then we didn't spend as much time in our concourse workouts. Our new defensive coaches weren't here very long before we got into spring practice, and they had to get with their players some. We wanted them to spend more time in the weight room with Coach Carlisle. He's doing a fantastic job down there. So we probably didn't run our team as much in the off season from a football conditioning type standpoint, the tough stuff, so we made the practices longer and tougher and harder. And I think that challenged us in some ways. We didn't have many fights throughout the course of spring ball. We had some almost fights with some guys that would stop when the whistle was blowing. So a lot of good signs, throughout the course of the spring. That indicated that we were becoming a more disciplined football team, and even something as simple as taking care of your teammates, staying off the quarterback, staying off of his arm in practice, guys being disciplined enough to stay way away from the quarterbacks in the live drills, So I think we showed a lot of signs of a team that has matured quite a bit and has developed some real discipline.
And we talk about those quarterbacks, and now that you have 8, or how many you
We don't
have
have
in the
8.
program,
We don't have 8.
It'll be 10 in the
It all
fall.
depends who counts them.
It'll be 10 in the fall.
We
but they could
understand
be not
they're going to play
actual
other places.
quarterback.
But talk about that in terms of do all your friends, and I know it's hard to say absolutely at this point, but do you like to have, wherever they play, do you think all the guys that are coming in as quarterbacks are likely redshirt guys, or do you just wait and see what you see when you get here?
Well, that's a good question, and there's a couple of those guys who are extremely athletic. Bilal Marshall is extremely athletic. Robert Gregory from up here in Simeon is extremely athletic, and they're guys that could come in, and if they could embrace the system and grow and develop, they could come in and maybe compete some, for that Wildcat spot, that Justin Stiller filled for some last year. So I don't want to rule any of those young guys out because there's some great athleticism in the group. you know, obviously with 2 senior quarterbacks and Rob Henry on board, it'll be hard for a guy to come in and break in the lineup as the quarterback or the first or second quarterback or first, second, or third quarterback. But potentially that athletics quarterback spot that we have featured that Wildcat player at some could be a spot a guy could come in and compete for.
But one of the interesting things about your class coming in too is that it seems to me, and I think you may have said this after signing day, is you have more ready-made, at least on paper, offensive linemen, guys that could come in and theoretically find their way on the chart, depth chart from the get-go.
You wouldn't think with we'll have 18 or 19 starters back that we would have a lot of freshmen that could come in and compete, like we have had the last couple of years. But I took the depth chart out and put the freshmen on it before I came in here because I figured someone would ask that question.
I'll just take that when you're
you know, and then you know, look at the guys that I've highlighted. You know, and obviously Carlos Carvajal's already here, you know, so he can help us some next year. He had a great spring, and then. You know, Jonathan Curry, who's a hybrid tight end, full-backish type guy, and that fullback position is a spot on our team right now that we're a little bit lean at. I thought Freitag had an outstanding spring, and I think he can really help us next year, and he can play well enough for us to win. But you know, Brandon Cotton was injured last season. We're still waiting, you know, for him to recover. So you know, maybe a guy like Jonathan Curry could come in and maybe compete at the fullback spot. And there's 2 or 3 of the offensive linemen that are just enormous. You know, and they're way advanced strength-wise. Jordan Ruse, coming off of knee surgery, has I think 2nd or 3rd longest throw in the country right now in the shot put, over 64 feet. And bench press is somewhere between 450 and 475 pounds. So he's strong enough to compete at this level already. So maybe a couple of those offensive linemen could come in and maybe compete and find their way into the 2 deep. I don't know, with all the reps that the new faces got in the spring, it's hard to say now, because those guys got a lot of reps and really improved a lot. But I thought coming in that maybe a couple of these old linemen might come in and work their way into the 2 deep depth chart. And obviously both of the kickers, both of the specialists, you know, Paul Griggs and Thomas Meadows, I anticipate both of those guys coming in and participating and helping us win this year. And then I wouldn't be surprised if the fast kid from down here in Hillsboro, Anthony Brown, doesn't come in and find the field, because he ran a 10.5 in his opening meet of the season. Now, he's had a hamstring injury, but been coaching a long time and haven't had any 10.5 100-meter guys that could play sitting on the sidelines ever. So there's still a handful of guys in this freshman class that could come in and play this year.
Yeah, you've been talking about Anthony Brown kind of quietly, and I know that you're careful not to lay the whammy on him in terms of when they get here, but he's a guy that you've been pretty clear about that you like. You know, you look at the also. What do you expect with a question about Austin Appleby, one of those quarterbacks coming in, very talented guy? What do you hope to get out of, again, he can come in and maybe he can show that he can play, but also what do you want for guys when they come in and potentially redshirt this year? What's the most important thing they need to do when they hit fall camp? A guy of that talent and that ability, the guy that you project to play someday at Purdue?
In my mind, almost every freshman should come to camp with the idea that he wants to compete to play. There's only a few guys in that freshman class that are obviously so developmental that they won't. The majority of these guys are good recruits and would have a chance to compete from a talent standpoint to get in the 2 deep. So every freshman should come to camp with the idea that he's going to compete for playing time right away. And then we redshirt as a result of where we're at personnel-wise in the depth chart. So I want them all to come in and compete for playing time, not to accept a backseat role, and then to work hard in school and start off well academically. It's so important they can start off and have success the first semester in school, and then to have fun. You know, they'll be away from home for the first time, a lot of new stuff, you know, so I got a good plan for them, but I expect them to come in and compete and get on board and start pulling the rope in the right direction and start helping us become a championship football team the day that they get here.
Well, your computer screen's not there, so you can't see any of the questions, but go ahead, fire away.
We've talked, obviously, throughout your tenure here a lot about special teams and how important that is for this team to really kind of be a complete team. One area is punt return team. I know you want to see get a lot better. I mean, it was in the bottom 3rd, I think, in the country in terms of average yard return. What did you see this spring, being able to see those guys? I'm guessing Ricardo and Frankie were kind of the 1-2 there. I guess signs maybe that there is potential to improve in that area specifically.
Well, with the number of skill players that we have on our football team, the number of playmakers on our football team, you think it'd be easy to come up with a very good punt returner. And Raheem Mostert was exceptional last year with the kickoff returns, and then you know, Hunt is exceptional off returner, you know, and he did a fantastic job, and so is Akeem Shavers. But that punt return guy, that's a whole different ball game. You know, fielding the punts You know, it was a real challenge. We played a lot of games last year that it was really windy in. You know, so at times we opted to go with a more sure-handed guy, someone we knew was going to field the punt, and then we forfeited some yardage. You know, was really pleased with what I saw Ricardo Allen doing throughout the course of spring, and Frankie Williams. I thought they looked sure-handed. We got a ton of reps at it. It was one of the focuses of spring football to go out there and do a lot of kick catching. You don't know what's going to happen in special teams with all the changes in the rules, and you have to have everyone that's in position to field a kick, you know, to get a lot of practice reps at it. So we spent a lot of time kick catching throughout the course of spring, and was really pleased with what I saw out of Frankie and Ricardo. Both of those guys have more return potential than we had on the field last year with Grace Sandy. But you know, Grace Sandy, we were sure he was going to catch the punt every time.
And he surprised you in a couple good returns. Certainly
he got better.
Rice and got some yards. Ricardo Allen, really a unique talent, comes on as a freshman and makes waves, obviously, in the Big Ten. You talk about short memories and an important characteristic of guys that play defensive back. You know, and he maybe is in the punt return game. You know, he had the fumble early in the year, but he's a guy. Talk about his mentality and maybe what next step he needs to make as a football player, a very talented one, to become maybe from All Big Ten to maybe an All-American type kid.
Well, he certainly has the want to, and he's an outstanding football player. And you asked me a similar question a couple weeks ago, but I think I have a better answer for you now. Because it is a great question.
Yeah.
You know, he goes down and he practices so hard, he does so well. We put Ricardo in some tough situations last year. We matched him up one-on-one with some of the best receivers in the country, top draft picks, and we didn't have the formidable pass rush that we'd have liked to have had. And we got off to a slow start last year a little bit in pass defense, and certainly in regards to hits on the quarterback and in regards to takeaways as well. And I think we're much, much further along with the defensive front. I think we could have an outstanding defensive front, and that really bodes well for your secondary and could really help Ricardo Allen have a special year. The thing that's happened since you and I talked last time is Ricardo has been voted a captain by his teammates, and I think that puts him in a new position of leadership and something that he will hold dear to heart. And you know, again, he's done some great things at Purdue, and he has very, very lofty goals, and he's a driven guy. But I think that this captain role and him being a big leader on our football team is something that'll fuel his soul in a lot of ways and help him become a better player. We always tell the guys on our football team that, I don't know why it happens this way, it's just a natural phenomenon, but you know, the more you care about the team, the better player you become. And Ricardo really wants to be a great player. So he's in position as a leader to really care about his team. So I see that being a real plus for us.
Yeah, no question. Josh Johnson, another guy that we don't talk about a lot in that position, also in a position of leadership this year. Just because he's a senior, he's been around, and he's obviously got a lot of field time. Talk a little bit about him, and then also, again, that role of that secondary is going to have to do the job as you continue to mature with that pass rush.
You know, Josh, we don't brag about enough.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, and he's a guy that probably doesn't need a whole lot of it. You know, he's a self-fulfilling guy. You know, tremendous worker. Really, really proud of Josh. He didn't play a whole lot of defense in high school. That probably surprises a lot of people. He was an outstanding offensive player, and for about 3/4 of his career here, Coach Norr's been in my ear the whole time about getting him over there on offense. But he's just too darn good on defense, and I think he'll be a draft pick and have a chance to be an NFL player. You know, so you know, I think he's a heck of a football player. He'll anchor down one of those corner spots with Ricardo Allen at the other spot, and there's some real competition out there on the field in the secondary. Really pleased with what I saw out of Taylor Richards. You know, he's an outstanding football player, and he's a low rep guy. That goes a long ways. Two of our top players on our football team, in my mind, is Taylor Richards and Crosby Wright. And that's two guys on our football team that are lower rep guys. They get it right off the bat. You don't have to show them too many times. They have really good football IQs, and that helps them excel at their position. So I thought the secondary looked great throughout the course of the spring. We have a lot of good players in the secondary. We had depth at the corner spot. Taylor Richards is penciled in as a starting safety right now. Him and Max Charlo with E.J. Johnson rotating at that third spot. You know, and that puts you really three really good athletes on the field and some guys that have played. You know, so I think our secondary can be exceptional this year. It starts with those two great corners that we have with Ricardo Allen and Josh Johnson.
All right, you get 30 seconds. Last question for both of you now, so go ahead.
Okay.
You had mentioned the draft about one of the guys potentially getting drafted. Obviously, that's the draft now is coming up next week.
No, I'm talking about a year from now.
I know you are, but I'm making you forward-looking now to next week in the actual draft and the guys you have, like Dennis Kelly.
Okay, I'm with you.
And Nick Mondeck, sorry.
I believe that Dennis Kelly is going to get drafted.
Yeah.
I believe he will. And, you know, the last week or two before the draft is the most nerve-wracking time for those guys because they get very little communication from anyone. Everyone's in touch, and then all of a sudden it turns dead silence, you know, for about 10 days before the actual draft day. But I'm really sure that Dennis Kelly will probably get drafted. It won't be a first day thing. It'll be a second day opportunity for him. And a lot of teams have brought Nick Mondek in and tried him out. A lot of teams have. He was off the charts numbers-wise. I think he ran in the 4.8s and weighed 300 pounds and, you know, bench pressed a house about 30 times. And, you know, really just, you know, topped out on all the testing. And I know a lot of the NFL scouts have been in researching Joe Holland. He's had some tryout opportunities along with Carson Wiggs, but I would assume that Dennis Kelly would probably be the first guy, first Boilermaker that has a chance to be taken in the draft. That's my guess, but you never know till draft day.
You guys did a great job in holding on time. I'm impressed. All right. It's the sad ending of another year, but we'll have this guy back next year. Not during the football season, but my guess is we might get him in for bowl preview time in December. That would be perfect. But thank you, Stacy and Coach Danny Hope. Thank you also to Gordon and to Kim and to Patsy and all the folks at WLFI that have helped us make this show. We really enjoyed doing it. It's our fun Friday afternoon. It's been a lot of fun doing it. And to all our guests throughout the course of the year, and to our sponsors, Follett's Purdue Pride, Hilton Garden Inn, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, and of course West Point Steakhouse. It won't be long till September 1st. He knows that.
Wait.
And August 31st will be our first show. Now, he won't be available because he'll be busy, but we'll be talking Purdue Eastern Kentucky and also fall camp and all of that on our next show, unless they cancel us, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we're going to have some fun.
Webcast things, won't we?
What?
We'll do a couple of those webcasts.
Yeah,
things,
we'll keep doing those, and
We'll
we'll be allowed to have you send questions, and we'll ask you questions the day before the game. It'll be perfect. So anyway, thank you all and have a great summer, everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you next fall, next August 31st on Gold and Black Live.